It's nearly ready. On the bed of the Atlantic Ocean, 120 kilometers off the coast of Nigeria, a complex network of communication and control lines is in place. And 1,000 meters above it, a colossal vessel lies at anchor. It's 300 meters long and the height of a 12-story building. These are just two elements of a vast and sophisticated production system that is now receiving its finishing touches. When they're completed, it will be ready to pump oil and gas from the Bonga field and send it home to Nigeria and to markets around the world. The Bonga project is breaking new ground, both geographically and technologically. It's Nigeria's first major deep water oil and gas development, and it will be capable of producing well over 200,000 barrels of oil a day. To bring it so close to completion has required years of hard work and a succession of pioneering achievements in design, construction, and installation. Thousands of people have played important roles in meeting these challenges, and the project supply network has stretched around the world from the USA and Europe to East Asia. It was here in South Korea that SHI built the 100,000-ton hull for Bonga's FPSO, the Floating Production Storage and Offtake Unit that lies at the heart of the development concept. But right from the start, a central theme of the Bonga philosophy has been to make the maximum use of Nigerian manpower, facilities and expertise.
3 of the topsides modules for Bonga were designed and built in Nigeria, and a significant amount of the flow lines were double jointed in this yard. We've also established infrastructure on the back of the Bonga project. Coating facility, an ultra-modern one, has been built in Sokotam in Onne. It's benefiting not only Bonga, but also future projects in Nigeria. Additionally, we've established a subsea facility at Onne for the maintenance and operational support, for the installation of subsea equipment and also for future projects. So a significant amount of Nigerian content has been achieved on the back of the Bonga project. And for the future, we should look at achieving even more. So Bonga has set the pace for Nigerian content on deepwater projects.
And this is one of Nigeria's biggest contributions to the Bonga project. The single point mooring buoy, or SPM, is rolling slowly towards the barge that will take it out to the Bonga field. It takes some rolling because it is the biggest of its kind in the world. The SPM stands over 12 meters high, spans more than 27 meters in diameter, and weighs around 900 tons. And this buoy has brains to match its bulk. It's the most technologically advanced deep-water offloading buoy in the world. And like many of the project's other core components, it was built here in Nigeria.
It was Nigerian content. It was built here in Snake Island, and it was delivered on time. And to a lot of people's credit, SBM worked very hard on it. Our project team people worked very hard on it. It's been installed, and basically I think on the back of that, Niger Dock have got another one to build for ExxonMobil. So all round, I think for Nigerian industry, Nigerian content, it's been a success story.
Technology transfer, as well as increase in employment, the two key benefits of these projects for Nigeria. And it's not just the people that are directly involved in doing fabrication work, in doing coating work, in doing design. It's also the people who are indirectly involved. It's the people who cook the food and sell to them just outside the yard. It's the people who provide accommodation in the area. So it's a significant contribution to the economic activity. And we continue to prove that we can achieve a lot in Nigeria. And that's a pointer to the future.
So there's plenty to celebrate. And now it's been announced that President Obasanjo will be arriving in person for the naming ceremony of the SPM. And there's a personal note to the official celebrations, as the president will name the boy after his own wife, Stella. Once the formalities were over, work could begin on the long process of getting the SPM ready for its 40-hour journey out to the development site. It's floated out into the middle of the river, then gradually eased into the element that will be its productive home for the next 20 years or more. Anchored a kilometer away from the FPSO, the buoy will perform a number of vital functions in the bonga production system. Most importantly, it will provide mooring for the shuttle tankers that come in to export crude oil, and it will offer them access to the offloading hoses. By the time the SPM reached its position on the bonga field, the whole area had already become the focus of intense activity. The Flotel Safe Caledonia had been brought in to allow an increase in manpower, and at peak it was now offering bed and board to a workforce more than 600 strong.
In terms of the weekly man-hours we should be liquidating, our target has been 10,000 man-hours. We currently achieve about 12,000 man-hours. But in order for us to safeguard the first oil gate, we need to do even more. And that's the reason why we have decided to procure a second floatel.
And while the installation work continues, the project team has long been preparing for the next phase, when all the systems are operational and the oil and gas are on stream. Weeks and months of intensive training have given all those who will operate the plant a thorough grounding in the skills they need to keep it running safely, reliably, and efficiently.
We've had on the HSE side a lot of small incidents since sort of April time. Slips, trips and falls. I think the management systems we've got in place are reasonable. I think the input we've had from the safety reps offshore in their committee has been excellent. But we still haven't got the level of safety performance we would like. So we're now looking again to see what we can do to urge people to be more careful. So the idea is to try and work the problem without driving the reporting underground. So we'd still like everything to be reported so we can address these issues. And I think the workforce have been fairly open with us, we've been fairly open with them. But between us, we've not been able to get the safety performance we would like. And again, we'll just continue to address that in the future.
Even when the main systems were in place on the FPSO, there remained a lot of detailed work to be finished off. A small army was engaged on board in hooking up and commissioning. While outside, a small armada of vessels moved ahead with installation. And there was still a great deal to install. Pipelines, mooring systems, and a network of subsea equipment. It was a challenging project for the ROV operators, with so much equipment to be accurately positioned on the seabed, and the added complication of the array of risers hanging down from the FPSO. The mooring system alone involved 12 separate lines, totaling more than 20 kilometers in length. Together, these would secure the FPSO to the 500-ton anchor piles driven deep into the seabed and hold it firm against the Atlantic swells and currents. The Seaway Polaris has been pushing ahead fast with the installation of the pipeline that will link the elements of the subsea production network. This is another area where Nigerian companies have made a major contribution to the project's progress. It's been a challenging task because when a pipeline is laid in such deep water, there's a real risk that its contents, even scalding well fluids, will cool so far as to solidify.
I think earlier in the year we had a lot of technical issues for which we didn't have solutions. The installation of the gas lift risers was problematic. We had a lot of problems with the welding of the clad steel in the steel catenary risers for the production risers. A lot of people are putting in a lot of work to fix those technical problems. Whereas in the past we were doing 5 or 6 welds a day on the flow lines, we're now doing between 30 and 35. So a lot of the technical issues have been fixed over the last sort of 6 months or so.
We have now installed virtually all the steel catenary risers, we've installed all the gas lift risers, and we've installed all the umbilicals on the side of the FPSO. So virtually we're almost done. The installation of the subsea trees by the Norman Progress has been a great success. And the reason why we needed to do that was that the drilling rig was essentially working over certain wells, and it had what you call the BOP down. And for the drilling rig to be able to install trees, it would have had to trip the whole string, which would have costed about 4 to 5 days. And by having the Norman Progress in the field with an excellent heave compensation system, we were able to take over that scope from the rig and install the same tree in a matter of a day, and thereby saving the project about 4 days on critical path and cost.
Well, bore it's one of the oil lines that goes between the FPSO and the loading line. We had 3, and we were about an hour away from finishing the installation of the first one, where the vessel that was installing it moved, and one of the pieces was put into a twisting motion, and it wasn't designed to do that. So when it twisted, it broke, and the bore descended rapidly to the seabed, and the head of the bore, I think, was 20 metres into the silt at the bottom of the 1,000 metres. So before you could install the next bores, you had to understand what had gone wrong this time. But I think the guys did an excellent job in terms of the investigation, and I think we learnt a lot from it. Chief among it is that when we do a lot of the design work, it's done a long time ahead of all the installation work. So when the installation guys come to look at it, you know, there's no design people around, they've all done the work and left. What we've done for subsequent wet systems work is make sure the people who designed the kit and who'd actually come up with the installation procedure were actually on the vessel when the work was done.
1,000 meters down on the seabed, a complex array of equipment has been installed to take the hydrocarbons from the wellheads to the FPSO. The whole network stretches across more than 75 square kilometers of seabed. A series of umbilical cables have been installed to allow the operations team on the FPSO to communicate with the various components of the system and to regulate them from the central control room. They can monitor the systems and receive reports on a range of parameters such as internal pressure, temperature, and humidity. The installation teams have put in place a number of steel catenary risers. Some of these will be used to carry oil and gas up from the wellheads to the processing facilities on the FPSO. But this riser is one of the flexible pipelines that will be used to export gas. Stretching 2.3 kilometers, it's the longest riser installed in deep water anywhere in the world. In all, the Bonga field will send 150 million cubic feet of gas a day to the Nigerian liquid gas plant at Bonny.
I think in order to manage the risks on a project like this, you need to make sure that the resources all work together, not stand back and watch somebody struggle. Because there are a lot of interfaces on a project such as Bonga. You can't do the hookups with the wells to the FPSO if the FPSO isn't there. You can't pull in the risers unless the crew on the FPSO are there to help the guys from the wet systems. So I think the one thing we've probably tried to do over the last 6 months is to make it more of an integrated team. So you don't say wet systems topsides, you say Bonga. I think a lot of people have worked very hard on the project to get it to where it is today. And I think that people ought to recognise these folks for the actual amount of effort that they put in to get it to this point. End of the year, we're halfway through the construction work on the top sides. Challenge is to make sure all the sort of wellheads, the control lines, the umbilicals are working and we don't have any gremlins when we start up. To complete the construction work as early as possible in 2005, make sure all the leak testing is done, get into pre-commissioning, commissioning, and when we press the start button in July, it ramps up very smoothly without any incidents, any issues, and we don't break anything while we're doing that. So I think there's plenty of challenges out there, but I think we know what they are. None of them are new to us, and it's just a question of making sure we apply ourselves to those challenges.